technique versus kind of being there, just mental, being there for them in a course of a round? How do you decide what you're going to do? Is it more just letting them play and being there to be their friend and pick them up when things are going bad, or sometimes you have to kind of kick them along a little bit to get going? How do you work that balance?
It's delicate, right? Each individual golfer is a little different in how they manage themselves on the golf course. Some of them, the one thing I've learned is some of them want to know where we stand as a team during the tournament or where they stand individually. Some of them don't want to know at all. So that sometimes is something I got to be aware of is do they want to know how they're doing against the field or how the team's doing against the field? Definitely picking them up if they're getting down, being their biggest cheerleader and not getting too technical, because there's a thing where you don't want somebody to be thinking about their golf swing when they're trying to score. So it's, okay, let's stay focused on our plan. What do we have on our yardage books and what's your plan, your individual plan for the course? And let's stick to that as much as we can. If we have a shot go awry, then okay, let's adjust. But, as I go around the course with them, I'm only with each individual player, maybe 3 or 4 holes out of a round. So it's when I have that opportunity to be with them, I'm walking with them, we're talking about things. And sometimes we're not even talking about golf.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, how are mom and dad doing? Or what, if their parents are there or things like that, and just having conversation or, what have they learned about the people they play with, in the group, if they talk to the people in the group, but just trying to keep them in a good, even keel, especially if maybe they had a bad hole, how do we get it back?
How do you, when you look at building your schedule and deciding, okay, I could go out and play against a lot of top 25 teams, or I could sneak into a field that doesn't have the same success and it's a winnable. How do you go about balancing the needs to prove yourself against top level teams, but also building confidence?
Yeah, and it is a delicate balance. I think within the last few years, we've had a decent balance of those challenging tournaments and those very winnable tournaments. We've probably played in more winnable tournaments, I would say, over the last couple of years than the challenging ones. So that's something I'm looking to change, especially going into next year. We're playing in a golf week event out in Colorado. We always play in the Pat Bradley down in Florida. And so just trying to it's those relationships, that you build with some of the, Power 5
Mm-hmm.
coaches and getting into those events, because that's where we need to be, and really have that tough competition.
You've had a home tournament now the last few years and been able to win it now back-to-back times, showcasing women's golf in Southeast Michigan with a name of Shirley Spork. And it's grown and grown. How happy have you been to see what that event's turned into?
I'm so happy, and I'm so happy Shirley's still here to see that we're honoring her and we're continuing on with her legacy with this tournament. Everybody who plays in it absolutely loves it. I mean, we're thankful that our home course and the Marriott are right next to each other, and it just is a great blend, and it makes it easy for teams to come here and play. And so that's another area where we're looking to invite, more top level teams to come play in our tournament. Yes, we love to win it, and we hope we continue to win it, even if we're bringing in even tougher teams. So that'll just make us better.
Not everybody gets to say they have a founding member of anything associated with their program, and you're lucky enough to have Shirley, get her to come back and be around and talk to the girls. How much of an impact does that make?
I think more that athletes and golfers get to know who Shirley is and her legacy and her history, the more they understand when she talks, you listen. And during our tournament, we got her on the speakerphone and just had it. I'm like, Shirley, I got the team here. Any words of wisdom? And she always brings out something, inspiring. And it's just more simple. And she's like, the golf course starts at the green, and, just always hone in on those putts. And so she's always been really good about finding the right things to say to the players, and just thankful for her.
You got to see her at the Solheim Cup, and the girls got to go. and see that kind of level of competition. How does that benefit them?
It's inspiring. The biggest thing, and some of our players, when we're working on our games, I compare them to some of those players. Like, for instance, Tatiana, we were talking the other day about, she's very similar to the Corda sisters as far as, height and everything. I said, that's a great visual for you to watch them play and how they go about their game. But just the inspiration of it and the spirit of the whole event. I mean, to watch it on TV is one thing, but when you're there, you just feel this love of the game even more. And we got to watch, like I was on the ninth hole watching Lexi, and she started to make a comeback and was doing really good. And it was just so exhilarating, to see that energy. And I think at the beginning of the season for us, that really got everybody energized.
The game of golf has changed a lot since you've got into it, first playing in high school to then coming here to Eastern and now being on the boards that you're on. How much has golf changed, do you think, in recent years?
It really has become, I would say, just like how baseball, I see how baseball is when you go from little league to to high school to college for baseball players. Golf is becoming that, because now there's so many more opportunities for young kids to play. You have U.S. Kids Golf, you have PGA Junior League, you have junior golf events, AJGA, even in the state of Michigan, you have the Meyer Tour. So there's just so many things that have come about in the last 20 or so years for kids to play in. And it's, a little bit safer sport,
Yep.
Right? It's kind of a sport that if you're growing up and there may not be that right sport for you, golf could be that sport for you.
How did you get started in golf?
Oh, wow. My brother's 8 years older than me. And he actually, the story of him getting started is we went out to Montana every other summer. And there was a golf course down from my aunt's house in Montana. And my dad's like, why don't you guys just go down and that's how he got started. So being the little annoying little sister I was, would follow him around. And, I was a gymnast though. I thought I was going to be an Olympic gymnast. And like, no, girls who are 5'6" don't normally become Olympic gymnasts. So golf then became my sport. And so he really was the one who got me into it. And then my dad played and my mom played. And so I look at it now, being a female, and not many females were really into golf even then, but to have a brother and a dad who were so encouraging with me. I mean, Dad and I would go out Sunday morning at like 7 o'clock in the morning to play golf. And I think that really pushed me more because they were so supportive.
Your parents are still heavily involved. They're at tournaments. I mean, your mom's driving the golf cart around and knows everything about the game. How fun is it for them to be back here after you were one of the founding members of this program?
Oh, they love it. I think it kind of was a hole for them when I was done playing college golf, and then I wasn't playing golf regularly after that. So when I took the job here, and they knew they could come to the tournaments, and it was like back at the old times, and they've really developed great relationships with the players. Everybody's so excited to see Mama and Papa Smoot when we come to the tournament. So they'll be down in Florida when we're down playing in Florida. So
when you look back and the decision to become one of the first people to sign here, I mean, a lot of people don't want to be a first for something and they want to join an established program. Why Eastern? What made you choose here?
Full transparency, I didn't know. I mean, then you didn't have the internet. You didn't have all, the information as much as you have now. So, I did a couple of visits. I think I went to Toledo and Bowling Green. I went to Cincinnati for a visit and then came up here. And I loved the coach. That was my big pull, was the coach we had then, who's still around. Iris Schneider is still around, but and I think that was really it, to know that I would be one of the first here, and I knew I'd be playing. I wasn't going to battle for any playing position. I knew I'd have an opportunity to play. And that was one, I remember being one of my biggest things, because I had talked to the coach at Ohio State, and she's like, well, you can come walk on. And I'm like, well, yeah, I could, but it was an if I would play or not.
Yeah.
And I knew I could play here, and and I really honestly didn't even know about Shirley Spork then, until I got more into my college career here. So it was interesting, because we were all freshmen, and none of us really even knew kind of how to go about things. But our coach was really good, and she guided us very well.
When you look at you now as the head coach, you're almost 4 years into it. What would you tell yourself now versus when you were a rookie head coach?
Be more organized. I think you learn as you go, and just to understand where my players are coming from, how they have developed their games, and the detail and the information that they require, to making sure that I have everything they need. And I think I'm getting to that point where they have what they need, and every year is going to change, but that they have what they need to be successful. Resources, swing information, swing coaches, all that stuff. Most of my players have their own swing coaches. So I just really developed those relationships with their swing coaches to help them out.
Final question before we start getting into the student athletes. When you look at what Eastern Golf has become, you've got the bubble, you've got the simulators, you've got a golf facility on the horizon. How much of an impact will that continue to only better this program?
Golf in general in Michigan is huge. People love golf, and I think us here at Eastern Michigan, we embody that. And we're kind of the hardworking crew, as we know with our football team and their mottos. And I think having even more resources that we're going to have from a recruiting standpoint, from a training standpoint. I mean, we have wonderful strength coaches, wonderful trainers, just a huge support group around us, that I can only see both teams just accelerating tremendously. So,
not having a senior on this roster is good for the aspect that you're not losing anybody, but it's also bad that you don't have that senior leadership. And you texted me last night about your captains, and how do you view your underclassmen having to take that leadership role on as in such an early situation?
I look at it as a majority of my team have 2 years left. So whether they're, in their third year or fourth year of college, I kind of look at it, okay, so where are they on the team, right? Because some of my players, during COVID, they took a break, they didn't come back, or, just didn't have the normal year that they would have had, especially like Olivia and Natai. So I kind of look now as they're all on a similar playing field, because they all have 2 years left. And with Anna and Sophia, they've really showed their leadership qualities. Sometimes we'll have optional workouts. They never miss an optional workout. They're just really putting the time in, and they really embrace their relationships with each player. And I value that a lot. I mean, we talk about relationships, we talk about communication, and how important that is from a leadership standpoint. So,
who's made the biggest leap for you that you've seen in improving their game on the course?
Wow. I mean, Kylie as a freshman to come out the way she did, I knew she was a great golfer coming into our school, but to see her just explode the way she did was tremendous. And I don't know if that was just, I wouldn't look at that as a leap for her, but it just showed that college golf wasn't going to intimidate her. Some players, when they come from high school to college, they kind of let it get to them. And I'm glad I didn't see that happen with her. I would say from last year to this year of repeating players, I know Sophia's really made a huge jump. She's very committed, very dedicated, and going doing things over the summer to make sure she is reaching those goals that she set for herself.
One of the things that's kind of changed is a lot more of your girls are now playing summer tournaments and doing some of those. You want them to get away from golf, but you also kind of want them to play. What's your kind of philosophy on encouraging them to take on those summer tournaments? And they've won some of them as well.
Mm-hmm. I really say to them that they should play in at least 4, especially like big tournaments. Do your U.S. Amateur Qualifier, do your State Women's Open, do your if there's another type of amateur championship that they can get into. So look at those bigger events that your competition is going to be a little bit tougher. I mean, we had several people who played in the Michigan Women's Open this past summer, and you get Symetra Tour players playing in that event. So anytime they get the opportunity to play in some of those bigger events, I think Kylie even tried to qualify for the marathon down in Toledo. So those are the events that I really try to encourage them to play in and not let it completely absorb their whole summer schedule, because you need that time to regroup and kind of just enjoy your summer a little bit. And but they love golf, and I don't want to discourage that, right? Just love golf, get out, play, practice, all that stuff. But yeah, stay competitive is the biggest thing.
And then when you look towards the end of the year, everybody always zooms in to trying to win a championship. And unfortunately, it's resided in Kent, Ohio since the tournament started. But the gap continues to narrow. And how important is it for your team to set that goal of Kent State's the standard that we want to be?
Mm-hmm. And I always looked at it as, I'm glad Kent has achieved what they've achieved, because then that's forced a lot of the other MAC schools to push to bring in those higher quality athletes to really get the training better, so we can then narrow that gap and eventually beat them. I mean, that's been my goal ever since I think I was a junior in Eastern Michigan golf. I always say, well, I'll give myself credit for being the even though I finished 4th my senior year in the MAC championship, I was the lowest scoring American. So I take credit for that. But they've always had a wonderful team, and I don't look at it as a bad thing. It's really pushed all of us to do better. And I think I told you I made little mini MAC trophies for our team, because our motto this year is see it, be it, believe it, because you have to, in a way, manifest, or as Anna will say, transmute what you want to do in life. And the more you put that out there to the universe, the more you believe it, the more you train for it, the closer that goal is going to come.
The Max will be at a new site this year in Toledo, a site that hasn't been played for the championship before.
Right.
Important for it to be close to home. People from Eastern could get there quickly, but also an opportunity to kind of level the playing field as well, right?
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, Toledo's going to be, I think, tough there. They've played Stone Oak quite a bit, and they have a pretty decent team. It's an interesting golf course in that it's very narrow, somewhat short. So if you're a big hitter, you got to really dial in on certain holes, and it's narrow. So it'll be interesting to see. Not very hilly, as we know, Northwest Ohio is pretty flat. So that challenge, the elevation challenge isn't really there. But we played it this fall, and is in wonderful shape. So I don't doubt it'll be in great shape this spring. So it's. Yeah, I think it'll bring out some different play from different teams, and I know several players on my team have played the course even before we played it in the fall. So I'm happy for that they're familiar with the course.
Anything that I've forgotten or hadn't asked that you think's important?
I think with our team we got a vision, and I think with any team you got to have that vision to move forward. And we're just looking forward to a wonderful season. And in spite of COVID, we're so thankful that golf can be something we can do and be outside and just shoot for that trophy.